Cry Andri, the leader of a powerful clan called the Grieving Souls, is known for his wisdom and strength. But the truth is, he's actually weak and doesn't want the job. He just wants to quit. Right now, he's reluctantly standing in line at a treasure hunter clan meeting, even though he doesn't really want to be there. In this world, treasure hunters are like celebrities, risking their lives to explore treasure vaults and fight dangerous monsters. Despite the risks, many people join clans to become famous or wealthy, like those in First Steps, one of the capital's top guilds. Andri is trying to stay unnoticed, but a girl named Ruta starts talking to him from behind. He ignores her at first, but then she steps in front and introduces herself as a level 3 hunter, offering a handshake. Andri declines and only tells her his name. Even though she's a bit disappointed, she continues chatting, telling him how she's been hunting alone until she found a vault called the White Wolf Den, but couldn't handle it by herself. So she decided to join a group. A guy ahead of them overhears and tells Ruta she shouldn't be taking on dangerous vaults like White Wolf Den at her low level, calling her an amateur. Ruta gets angry and Andri regrets not staying home to avoid the drama. Ruta pulls out her knives, ready to fight, but a guard steps in, reminding her this isn't a place for fighting and she could be banned from the meeting. Ruta quickly puts her knives away and apologizes, while Andri pretends he's not involved. Later, they enter the meeting together since Ruta doesn't know anyone else. She feels overwhelmed seeing all the strong and experienced hunters around her, having never been in a place like that before. Ruta asked Andri if he had been to the recruitment meeting before, and he told her it was his 5th time. In the world of hunters, talent is everything, and even nobody can rise in the ranks with enough skill. Ruta noticed a lively group of hunters in flashy outfits on the other side of the room and asked Andri about them. He explained that they were Arc Brave, the strongest group recruiting today. They once cleared a level 7 vault with just 6 members, which earned them a lot of respect. Their leader, Arc Rodin, is very picky about who he recruits, but joining his group almost guarantees a successful hunter career. Ruta then asked about an empty desk in the corner, but before Andri could answer, Greg, the guy they argued with earlier, stepped in to explain. Greg said the desk belonged to the Grieving Souls, a legendary group of childhood friends who became famous after arriving in the capital. Rumors suggested they might be recruiting today, but since they weren't there, Greg thought the rumors were false. Just then, a kid who was eager to join the Grieving Souls got frustrated that they hadn't shown up, as his dream was to become the strongest hunter. Greg found the kid's frustration amusing, but Ruta stayed quiet, knowing the kid was actually a higher level than her. At that moment, a girl named Tino stepped forward, ready to shut the red-haired kid up because she believed she was the only one worthy of joining the Grieving Souls. Her partner tried to calm her down, thinking it wasn't worth making a scene, even though the red-haired kid was annoying. The tension in the room seemed to settle down, but then Greg stirred things up again, and now everyone was excited for a fight. Tino and the red-haired kid squared off, and Andri could sense things were about to get chaotic. Not wanting to be involved, he asked Ruta to step outside with him. Just as the fight was about to begin, Tino, who was ready to seriously hurt the kid, suddenly sensed someone familiar. She saw Andri and completely forgot about the fight, rushing toward him. Surprised, Andri stumbled and Tino nervously called him Master, asking if he saw her lose control. Then Arc, the leader of Arc Brave, approached Andri and greeted him, mentioning that they had been waiting for him. It was then revealed that Andri was not only the leader of the Grieving Souls, but also the most important person in the room. Everyone who recognized him was shocked, realizing who he really was. Even though he was getting all this attention, Andri felt sick from it and just wanted to go home. Years ago, when Andri and his childhood friends first arrived in the capital, they were clearing beginner vaults incredibly fast. But there was a catch. Andri didn't know what he was doing. He was once saved from a monster, and his teammates thought he was using himself as bait on purpose, so he played along even though he almost got eaten. They all shared a dream of becoming top-tier hunters, but Andri knew he was just average. He worried he would hold the group back, so he tried to quit, but somehow, instead of leaving, he ended up being made the leader of the group. Now, even though Andri just wants to retire, he's stuck leading his talented friends. Ruta and Greg were both shocked to learn that Andri had been the clan master all along. As Andri tried to relax in his chair, Arc approached him again and asked if he arrived late just to blend in with the crowd. Andri insists he simply overslept, but Arc doesn't believe him. No matter how much Andri tries to explain, people always see him as more impressive than he actually is. Tino, unhappy with how close Arc seems to be to Andri, wants Arc kicked out of the clan, but Andri refuses. Tino is a level 4 hunter and an apprentice to Liz, one of Andri's childhood friends, so she spends a lot of time around him. Arc then asks Andri if he sees any good candidates for recruitment. However, there isn't a big need for new members since Arc rarely recruits. Seeing an opportunity, Andri asks if Arc would seriously consider his suggestions. To everyone's surprise, Ark agrees to recruit anyone Andri recommends. The vice captain tries to change his mind, but Ark insists that if Andri vouches for someone, they must be worth it. Tuna blushes, thinking Andri might suggest her, but she feels conflicted because she doesn't really like Ark. Suddenly, Gilbert, the kid from earlier, stands up and begs for a chance to join. Andri tells him he'll recommend him under one condition, that Gilbert proves he can always win as a hunter. If he lacks strength, he could put his party in danger. So Andri wants him to show that he has what it takes to come out on top. Andri's words hold weight because ever since he became a hunter, he has never lost a battle, though that's only because he's never actually fought in a real one. Andri takes off one of his ring artifacts and announces to the hunters that whoever brings it to Ark will be welcomed into his team. He throws the ring into the crowd, eager to watch the chaos unfold. Gilbert grabs it first, but before he can react, Tino leaps at him and knees him so hard that he's knocked across the room, likely needing medical help. The ring rolls across the floor, and after a brief pause, everyone starts scrambling for it, leading to an all-out brawl. Andri, unfazed by the chaos, quietly slips away. By the next morning, the fight had made front-page news because the bar was completely wrecked, although no one was seriously injured. Eva informs Andri that the Explorers Association has called for a private meeting, and he knows they're going to scold him. When he asks how Ark reacted, Eva says Ark found it amusing and wasn't upset. Andri, hoping to use Ark's good mood to his advantage, jokingly suggests sending Ark the bill for repairs and having him attend the meeting. But Eva reminds him the meeting is specifically for Andri. Knowing he has no way out, Andri reluctantly agrees to go, aware that if he doesn't, Gark, the head of the association, will track him down. Andri plans to use his usual trick to avoid getting into too much trouble. Groveling and apologizing, he argues that the only thing damaged was the bar, no one got hurt, and the owner has already been compensated for repairs, so there shouldn't be any more issues. Gark, seeing Andri's apology, decides to let it go for now without even yelling at him. Andri still needs to take responsibility for causing the chaos, so Gark assigns him a quest that he can't refuse. The association gets lots of quests, but some are so tough or low-paying that hunters consider them chores and no one wants to do them. Andri tries to act like he's too important for a chore, but Gark won't let him off the hook. Forced to choose, Andri looks through the quest book and picks the easiest one, a level 3 quest. He plans to pass the job on to Ark, but when he goes to find him, Tino tells him Ark is at a meeting with nobles. With no other options, Andri is stuck with the task. At that moment, Andri notices Tino is wearing his ring, meaning she won the game from yesterday. Ignoring that for now, he asks if she's free. Tino, thinking he's about to ask her out on a date, gets excited. But she's disappointed when Andri reveals he just wants her to do the quest for him. She tries to run, but Andri summons his chained dog, Silver, to catch her. Tied to a chair, Tino listens as Andri explains the mission. Feeling betrayed, she complains that she wanted a date, not to do his lazy quest. When she suggests Andri should go with her, he refuses, not wanting to do the work. Instead, he sends her off with the hunters from yesterday to complete the quest. 6 years ago, Andri and his friends arrived at the Explorers Association, the headquarters for treasure hunters. Andri was hesitant to go in even though it was his idea to aim for the capital. He was worried that he'd hold them back because he felt useless. Luke, tired of Andri's overthinking, burst into the association and announced that he was the greatest swordsman in the world, demanding to fight the strongest person there. Liz, with her pink hair, didn't want to be outshined, so she claimed to be the greatest thief in the world. Andri just wanted to get their registration done, but his friends were busy making bold statements. Luke even told someone that real strength doesn't need a weapon, saying it's something Andri, their team leader, believed in. When it came time to register their party's name and crest, Andri had a sneaky plan for revenge on his friends for making him the leader. He picked the name the Grieving Souls with a skull as their crest, thinking it would make them seem weak. His friends were shocked, reminding him they were supposed to be a hero party, and the name made them look antisocial. Andri tried to use this as a way to back out of being the leader, but his friends ended up loving the name. And so their party was officially formed, marking the beginning of Andri's rise as the famous leader of the strongest clan. Back in the present, the big guy can't believe that Andri is the master of the Steps clan. This is because the clan master has the nickname 1000 Tricks and is also the level 8 hunter. Tino demands that the newbie group bow down to Andri, but he tells her to calm down. Hunters who reach a certain status get special names from the association, which makes them almost like celebrities. 1000 Tricks is the name Andri was given, and it's a huge honor. He's considered the strongest hunter in the capital, but Gilbert doesn't believe that Andri is him. Tino tells Gilbert that he's wasting his life if he can't even recognize Andri's strength, and she complains that she can't work with people like that. She hates guys who are all talk, but Andri thinks he's one of those guys too. He doesn't see himself as the strongest. His reputation only came from his friends telling everyone he was. Gilbert refuses to work with Tino too, but it's because he thinks Andrea is lying about being level 8. Greg tries to warn Gilbert who he's messing with, but Gilbert still doesn't believe Andrea is the leader of the strongest party. An argument breaks out among the newbies, so Andrea decides to stop trying to convince Gilbert. Craig and Ruta are on board with him, so Andrea tells Tino to ask someone else in the guild for help if she needs it. Tino tries to pick Andrea to help her, but he quickly says no. Everything seems settled, but out of nowhere, Gilbert challenges Andrea. He refuses to listen to anyone weaker than him, so he says if Andrea beats him, he'll work with Tino. Andrea accepts the challenge, but sends Tino to fight instead. Tino, eager to punish Gilbert for being rude to Andrea, gets ready to deliver some divine punishment. Tino stretches before the fight, but Gilbert is eager to get his rematch. He insists on fighting Andrea next, but Andrea doubts Gilbert will even come close to being Tino. Gilbert is shocked to learn that Tino is a level 4, just like him. Tino admits she's nowhere near Andrea's level, but she's confident that she'll win the fight easily. The other rookies are a bit worried since thieves aren't typically great at direct combat, but Andrea knows better. Tino has lots of experience fighting people and even reached level 8 on her own, so she's probably way better than Gilbert. However, Andrea is a bit concerned about Gilbert's relic, the peroral sword, which could give him an advantage. Then, to everyone's surprise, Gilbert throws his powerful sword aside. He refuses to let anyone think he's weak and declares he doesn't need a weapon to beat an unarmed girl. Andrea thinks it's pretty foolish for a swordsman to throw away his sword, but at least now the fight will be about raw skill. Tino prepares for battle and convinces Andrea to take her for ice cream when she wins. When the fight starts, Tino surprises Gilbert with her incredible speed and lands a kick that sends him flying. Gilbert isn't ready to give up, but Tino quickly puts him in a lock, reminding him that she was holding back the entire time. She offers to let him off easy, but only if he worships Andrea as a god, prays to him 3 times a day, and brings her tributes to pass on to Andrea. Furious at being humiliated, Gilbert tries to fight back, but Tino instantly shuts him down. Tino gives credit to Andrea for helping her become so strong, but Andrea doesn't think he really did anything. Everyone else is shocked by how powerful the Steps clan is, while Gilbert is left feeling defeated. Tino teases Gilbert, telling him to use his sword if he wants to keep fighting, but Gilbert refuses. She mocks his pride, pointing out that it's worthless if it gets him killed. Gilbert realizes she's right. He would have been finished if this had been a real fight. Gilbert is surprised when Andrea correctly guesses that he left his party because he was too strong for them. Andrea mentions that something similar happened with his own party, but in his case, his friends didn't abandon him. Unfortunately, Gilbert misinterprets this. He becomes shocked, thinking that Andrea, as part of the Grieving Souls, is holding back out of kindness to his teammates, even though he's much stronger than them. Andrea further surprises Gilbert when he touches Gilbert's sword and activates its power. Andrea quickly figures out that the sword causes elemental damage and extends the attack range. Gilbert is in disbelief because he has never seen anyone handle a purgatorial sword so effortlessly. To top it off, Andrea creates a flame that even Gilbert himself has never been able to summon, all without even touching the sword's hilt. Gilbert's frustration grows as his ego is shattered and he calls Andrea a monster. We then learn that mana material is believed to be the core substance of the world, and treasure vaults are created when mana material condenses, forming alternate worlds based on memories extracted from the world's core. The White Wolf's Den is one of the treasure vaults, and it's the one Tino is heading to. It used to be home to Silver Moon wolves, but they were wiped out due to excessive hunting for their fur. The vault eventually appeared with a blood-soaked wolf phantom inside. Andrea is relieved he didn't have to go himself, but he's confident that Tino and her group will be fine since it's only a level 3 vault and they have 4 people in her party. Later, Andrea thanks Eva for telling him about Gilbert leaving his old party, as it allowed him to surprise Gilbert. Eva mentions that the sword Andrea handled earlier was a type of relic he can control easily. Andrea loves relics because they come in so many shapes and have a wide variety of uses, making them fun to collect. He also enjoys how they let him perform miracles despite not being the strongest fighter. Andrea even wonders if he could buy the purgatorial sword from Gilbert, but Eva disapproves of his reckless spending. She thinks he already has enough relics, but Andrea argues that each relic is unique with its own personality and abilities, even if they look similar. While getting his relics charged, Andrea hears a rumor about a phantom appearing on a nearby road. It destroyed an entire caravan and 3 level 3 guards, meaning it's pretty strong. As a result, the Knights of the Third Order are putting together an extermination party to deal with the threat. Andrea is shocked to hear that trouble is happening near the White Wolf's den, and that the vault is now full of wolves. He convinces himself it's just a rumor, and even if it's true, Tino was strong enough to handle it. But the rumor keeps spreading, saying the monsters inside the wolf's den are getting stronger, and the association is even considering raising its danger level. Andre brushes it off again until he hears that a level 5 party has gone missing in the area. This shocks him, so he checks the fact sheet for the task he assigned Tino. It confirms that the party needing rescue is level 5, and Andre regrets not reading the details earlier. The people Andre is talking to are shocked that he sent Tino, who is level 4, to a vault where level 5s have disappeared. But Andre tries to reassure them, saying it will be good practice for her. He also mentions that he sent 3 adventurers with her, but they're horrified to learn that it was just a makeshift group. They used to think the scary rumors about Andre's dangerous tests for his members weren't true, but now they realize that's what made the Grievers the top party. Andre starts to worry that he may have sent Tino and the others to their doom, but he convinces himself again that they'll be fine. Gilbert is strong and has a powerful relic, but then Andre remembers that the sword's power was already used up. He wonders if Gilbert had a chance to recharge it before they left. Meanwhile, we see the group approaching the White Wolf's den. They can feel how dangerous the mission is, and Tino even mentions that she wrote her will before leaving. Ruta suspects that Andre knew something was wrong with the den, which is why he sent them there. Tino believes that their party was put together randomly, but she's certain that Andre planned every little detail. The others don't believe her since they only met the day before and Gilbert only joined at the last minute. But then Gilbert remembers how Andre knew why he left his old party, and he realizes that Andre had been manipulating the situation from the start. Tino adds to Andre's reputation by explaining that he has extensive knowledge of all the adventurers in the capital, and it's easy for him to predict their actions and thoughts. Ruta finds it hard to believe, but Greg reminds him that Andre even predicted what would happen during the interview. Every single thing that's happened so far was planned. Tino reassures the group that they don't need to worry because whatever happens, Andre has it all figured out. She's confident he would never send them on a mission they couldn't handle. Unfortunately, they're way off. Andre actually did send them on an impossible mission. He's hoping the group will eventually give up when the task gets too tough, but he knows that Tino won't quit easily. Since no one will respond to a backup call at this time, Andre realizes he'll have to go himself. Meanwhile, the group is terrified when they come across a powerful phantom. It's not just any wolf, this one is wearing armor and even carrying a sword. Tino believes that this is just another one of Andre's legendary tests for her, but in reality, Andre is scrambling to find relics to stop the group from heading to the vault. He tries to gather as many relics as he can, but then a safe catches his eye. Eva notices him and asks what he's up to, so Andre casually tells her he's just going for a little stroll. Eva can tell he's worried about the group, but she's shocked when she sees he's even taking something called sea tree slime. Andre denies having the item because it would be illegal under Imperial law. However, Andre is stressed because all his offensive relics are out of mana, so he feels like he has no choice but to take the sea tree slime as a last resort. Eva wonders if he should take someone with him, but Andre's traveling relic only works for one person. Andre activates the relic and flies off into the sky. Eva is concerned because the relic he's using is the one from the infamous human missile incident called the Night Hiker. It's incredibly dangerous, with no safety features, no brakes, and no way to steer or hover. Basically, it's a defective relic. A week after the Grieving Souls came together as a team, an incident occurred with the Redhead's special weapon, the Divine Testament Blade. He had valued this weapon greatly and saw it as his prized possession. When it broke during a recent fight, he was stunned and taken aback, not expecting this to happen. The rest of the group, however, reminded him that it was essentially just a wooden sword. Against a strong opponent like the Cyclops they had just battled, it didn't really stand a chance. Accepting their reasoning, he had to come to terms with his disappointment. Meanwhile, an old adventurer who was clearly drunk overheard their story. He doubted the truth of what they were saying and began mocking them, accusing them of running away from the Cyclops. He didn't believe they could have defeated such a creature. To prove him wrong, the girls from the Grieving Souls pulled out the Cyclops' eye as proof that they had indeed faced and conquered it. This sight frightened the old man so much that he nearly wet himself out of fear. In the present, Tino's group has just defeated a wolf monster. This particular creature was unusually strong, leading them to believe that it didn't belong in that area. They felt fortunate, though, that there was only one of these powerful beasts for them to face. As they took a moment to catch their breath, the group wondered why Gilbert hadn't used his flames during the battle. He then explained that he was out of mana. This was because Cray had used up all of his mana earlier and Gilbert couldn't replenish it on his own. This situation made some team members suggest retreating, as they doubted the people they were meant to rescue were still alive. They thought it might be too late to save anyone. However, Tino was determined not to give up. She firmly believed that their mission was to save the living, not just recover bodies. She expressed her strong confidence in Kray's decisions, trusting that every move he made was for a reason. In her view, the lack of mana wasn't an accident, but rather a part of Kray's plan. She speculated that he might be trying to teach them not to rely too heavily on the relics. After regrouping, they eventually reached the White Wolf's den. Upon arrival, they were surprised to find that the wolves inside were much larger than expected. The den itself was built for smaller wolves, which made it quite cramped for these oversized beasts. This setup gave them an idea. Since the wolves didn't have much space to move around, they decided it would be better to fight them inside the den, where the limited room would work in their favor by restricting the wolves' movements. The group prepared themselves to rush into the den, hoping that the tight quarters would give them a strategic advantage in the upcoming battle. Gilbert wants to charge in first, but Tino stops him with a string of insults, even calling him a stupid idiot. She believes it's her job to keep everyone alive, and rushing in recklessly is the worst idea she's ever heard. Tino feels that Cry is testing her leadership skills, so it's crucial for her to protect everyone. She decides the girls will lure the monsters forward since they're quicker, while the guys can handle the back. As their leader, she's determined not to let anyone sacrifice themselves as a shield. Meanwhile, Cry is soaring through the air with a very different mindset from Tino's. He just hopes she's alive and even wants her to use the team as shields if needed. Tino's group engages in battle, and even though the monsters are much stronger, they have teamwork on their side. They win their first fight, and Tino is relieved that the enemies lack cooperation. As more monsters show up, she starts appreciating her team's unique strengths. Gilbert may talk too much, but he's strong. Ruta is excellent at finding enemies, and Greg has loads of experience and works well with the group. She credits Cray for putting together such a great team and even calls him a genius. Looking back, we see that Gilbert had issues with his old team because they couldn't keep up, and he left in frustration. Now he realizes he didn't consider their feelings and enjoys fighting with his new group. After another victory, Gilbert is pumped and says he's just getting started. Just then, Tino senses the dungeon boss nearby. The others suggest they should finally make a run for it, but Tino points out they've come this far without getting hurt, so they should be able to handle the boss too. Tino agrees that being cautious is usually smart, but easy missions don't help anyone grow. Greg reflects on how, once hunters reach level 4, they can earn a good living by completing lower-level treasure vaults. He used to do this and would run away when things got tough. He's seen many friends die in battle, which has made him fearful. Tino realizes he likely joined First Steps to change this about himself, and she believes that's why Cry put him on this team. She thinks Cry carefully chose the team to save these so-called losers, and that he always has a good reason for everything. Ruta now believes in Cray's plan and wants to know why he picked her. Tino jokes that he probably chose her for her large plot points. Up in the sky, Cry worries that he's too late to stop Tino from entering the vault. He panics because his flying relic is wildly out of control, and he curses whoever made it. It's so chaotic that it sends him crashing straight into the vault. Inside, Tino's group is terrified when they encounter the boss. It's way too big. She notices the boss isn't wearing a helmet and figures that's its weak spot. The guys distract the giant beast with attacks, and Ruta is impressed that Tino never shows fear. Greg ends up in danger when his sword breaks, but Ruta saves him just in time. Tino shows her incredible skill by closing in on the enraged monster and stabbing it right in the neck. Tino's group wins the battle, and she treats her injured leg with a potion. They're all in good spirits because now all that's left is the rescue. Tino lends Greg a sword temporarily, but she has to dodge an attack as more bosses suddenly appear. The group is horrified, fearing they can't handle so many enemies. Even Tino thinks Cray's test has gone too far, so she decides they need to retreat into a nearby passage to avoid the boss's attacks. However, the passage is blocked, so the guys decide to act as bait, letting the girls escape. They tell the girls it's better than all of them dying. Tino wonders why Cray would put them in this situation, and she has a sudden realization about Cray's ring. She reminds everyone that no one will be sacrificed and that they should target the boss's eyes. She directs the team to distract one of the beasts, and Ruta manages to make it close its eye. Tino remembers when Cry showed her how to use a relic she won from him, so she uses it to blind the boss. The others send Gilbert to finish it off, but he's hit by the monster and apologizes for failing. Tino blames herself for not leading well enough and feels they're doomed as the 4 bosses close in. Just then, out of nowhere, Cry crashes into the vault, surprising everyone. He greets Tino, and Greg notices the monsters seem frightened of him. The monsters attack Cray, but his shield protects him, leaving the creatures stunned. Cry taunts them, mentioning he has 17 lives, and uses a powerful relic to strike back. The entire cave lights up with the force of his attack, and Greg is in awe, finally seeing what a level 8 is capable of. Cry is puzzled by the number of terrifying monsters around, as this should only be a level 3 vault. The group is shocked when the boss monster survives Kray's attack, but he expected this since his shooting rings aren't that powerful. The team panics as the other bosses close in on Kray, armed with swords and guns, but Kray remains calm. He's prepared with 17 safety rings and decides it's time to use his secret weapon. The monsters freeze in fear when Kray removes his necklace and drinks from a vial, creating a smokescreen. He yells for the others to run, but they move slowly, and Gilbert worries they'll get caught. Ruta reminds him that Tino is injured, which is why Kray appears to be lagging behind. In reality, Kray is just a slow runner. Tino, however, believes he's staying back to protect her and recalls the first time they met when the Grieving Souls saved her from some thugs. That was when Tino first admired Kray and wanted to join his group. The team thanks Kray for saving them and credits Tino for keeping them alive this long. Kray praises Tino for doing a great job, but her injuries are causing her pain. Kray realizes she wants him to heal her, so he uses a relic and Tino immediately feels better. Gilbert is amazed to see Kray healing with a relic, while Kray thinks to himself that he needs relics for everything. Though Kray couldn't defeat the bosses, they now have another issue. They're lost inside the vault with no idea where the exit is, and Kray has no plan for getting them out. That marks the end of today's anime recap. If you enjoyed the video and want more of it, please support the channel by leaving a like and subscribe. Let's help us reach a current goal of 10K subscribers. In the past, Kray showed his collection of relics to his friends and they were amazed. Liz reminded Kray of his promise to let her pick one out, and soon everyone started trying out different relics. Another pink girl asked about a small bag, and Kray explained it was a magic bag that could hold infinite items, but only chocolates. Because of that limitation, it was actually pretty cheap. Liz then found a bracelet and asked Kray about it. Before he could answer, she felt dizzy and fell. Kray explained it was a labyrinth ring, which makes the wearer lose their sense of balance. Meanwhile, Luke picked up a sword and thought it was cool, but Kray told him it was cursed and made people go crazy. They eventually realized that most of the relics were pretty useless, but Luke and Liz decided to keep them as training tools because they admired Kray so much. In the present, the group felt reassured having Kray lead them through a cave. Kray, however, was confused because it was his first time there. He had no idea where he was going. When he tried to ask Tino to take over leading, the whole group started looking around, thinking Kray had noticed something suspicious. As they continued forward, Kray wondered if Tino was angry at him, and he thought about apologizing. Then Gilbert asked if they were heading to the exit, which made Kray wish he knew the way out too. Before Kray could respond, Tino said she had a rough idea of the cave's layout from a map they saw earlier. According to her, the path they were on wouldn't lead to the exit, and they would need to go back to the boss room to find it. Kray wondered if the giant white wolves they encountered were the bosses, which explained why they were so strong. As they kept walking, Kray thought it was time to turn back, but everyone suddenly got shocked and rushed forward, amazed at how Kray knew their location. Confused, Kray followed them and saw that they had found the party they were supposed to rescue. They helped treat the group's wounds, and the leader, Rudolph, thanked them for the rescue. Tino told him to thank their leader, Kray, for predicting everything and leading them there, but Kray admitted it was just a coincidence. The others thought he was just being humble. Ruta mentioned they still had enough potions for mana, but they needed food to recover their strength. Kray handed out chocolate bars to everyone and even offered a special dark chocolate bar to Tino, who now thought Kray was a divine being. Then Greg commented that he didn't expect a group of level 5 treasure hunters to be taken down by the half-masked wolves, but Rudolph clarified that the wolves weren't the real threat. Instead, they had been defeated by a small phantom with a full-boned face, which he called the embodiment of grudge. This left everyone, except Kray, shocked. Meanwhile, the masked phantom approaches the pack of wolf knights and uses its power, making them howl and glow with purple flames. As this happens, Rudolph continues his story, explaining that the phantom is likely the curse of the Silver Moon, born from the grudges of monsters that were killed in the treasure vault. He says his team was confident in their skills, but the phantom was on another level. It felt humiliating because the phantom defeated them all by itself. Rudolph even suggests that the phantom might be as strong as the legendary Thousand Swords. This shocks everyone, and Kray explains that the Thousand Swords is the title given to the strongest swordsman in the imperial capital, someone who has mastered all forms of swordsmanship and is said to be able to cut down any enemy with just a wooden sword. Kray remembers that the Thousand Swords is actually one of his childhood friends, Luke, who is a party member of Gav's. Kray thinks the phantom is strong, but it's an exaggeration to compare it to Luke, because if it were on Luke's level, Luke would have already taken it down. Still, he admits the phantom could be too tough for Tino to handle. Rudolph continues, saying that when they first faced the phantom, it toyed with them like playthings and they wouldn't survive another encounter. He asks Kray what they should do next. Kray says they need to find a way out of the cave before facing the phantom, but he reminds everyone that Tino is the leader of this mission, so they should follow her lead. Tino feels humbled, saying she's nothing compared to Cray, but Cray reassures her, offering his help if needed, while thinking to himself that leading is too scary for him. This encouragement boosts Tino's confidence, and she says she can now run properly since her leg has healed. However, Cray reminds her to be mindful of the injured members, knowing that they simply can't keep up with her speed if she runs at full pace. Rudolph then promises that if they encounter the Phantom, he'll act as a human shield, and begs the others to escort his friends safely to the capital if something happens to him. One of Rudolph's party members interrupts him and insists that he will act as a human shield instead. Tino declares that she has no intention of leaving anyone behind and reassures the group that as long as their master, Cray, is with them, they will be fine. Suddenly, they hear the wolves howling in the distance and wonder if they're getting closer. Cray checks his rings and realizes he only has 5 safety rings left, meaning if he gets hit a 6th time, he might really be in trouble. His shot ring isn't working, he lost his tea tree slime, and he even dropped the relic sword he had tied to his waist. He begins to think he might actually be in serious danger this time. Meanwhile, a masked figure is seen walking through the mist in the cave. Gilbert and Greg keep watch for attacks from the wolves or the Phantom. Tino senses something powerful approaching and Rudolph prepares to attack. However, Cray steps in front of them, thinking that if he uses his night hacker skill to launch himself like a missile, he might lose a life but could surprise the Phantom with an attack. Soon, the Phantom emerges from the mist, surrounded by purple flames, which terrifies Ruda and Gilbert. Tino, standing behind Cray, also feels scared. She then notices the masked figure from earlier, which makes her panic. She clings to Cray's cape, begging for his help, promising to be a good girl and do her best if he saves her this time. As the Phantom turns to see who the masked figure is, the girl suddenly vanishes and delivers a powerful kick to the Phantom, sending it flying. It turns out that the masked girl is Liz, a member of the Grieving Souls. She walks up to Cray and asks if the Phantom was their new member. Cray denies this and tells her to take off her mask. Liz then hands Cray the relic sword he lost earlier, while the others wonder who she is. Liz becomes upset, questioning how they haven't heard of the Grieving Souls, the strongest party in the entire empire, and she suspects they might be imposters. She also feels sad because when she went to the capital to find Cray, she couldn't locate him. Liz explains that she was told Cray was at this cave, which is why she came. Feeling embarrassed because of her apprentice, she approaches Tino and starts scolding her. Gilbert tries to defend Tino, but Liz kicks him away. Liz apologizes to Cray for having such a useless apprentice and continues scolding Tino, making her feel terrible. However, Cray steps in to defend Tino, saying she completed her mission and was a decent leader. This calms Liz down a bit, and she admits that Tino has talent, but lacks motivation and the will to give everything for her goals. Just then, the Phantom gets up and summons a wolf knight armed with a Gatling gun, which frightens everyone. The wolf shoots at them, but Liz sighs and, blaming Tino for making others think she's weak, catches all the bullets at lightning speed, stacking them on the ground in a neat pattern. Everyone is amazed, and Liz says old weapons like that are no big deal. She approaches the wolf knight, claiming its armor doesn't matter, and easily blows it up with one attack. The Phantom then attacks Liz with a sword, but she effortlessly catches the blade with her fingers, saying swords are just as useless to her. Liz wonders aloud why Tino can't do all of this while kicking the Phantom into the air, then smashing it into the ground with a punch. Tino, overwhelmed by all the insults, begins to cry, and Cray starts feeling bad for her. After Liz is done venting her anger on the Phantom, Cray welcomes her back. Later, they return to town, and Gilbert decides to give the Purgatory Sword to Thousand Tricks. He says he'll keep training with his old team and hopes to one day catch bullets like Liz, though no one believes he can do it. Tino mentions that if Gilbert really wants to be like Liz, he should know their masks are special. This takes us back to 6 years ago when Cray ordered the masks but forgot to tell the maker to cut holes for their eyes. The team thought this was intentional to protect them from blinding attacks and believed that training with the eyeless masks would make them stronger. Back in the present, Cray is searching for something but can't find it. He walks outside, hoping to just forget about it. Cray is frantically searching for Citri's slime, but he can't find it anywhere. Frustrated, he decides to let it go for now, though his mind keeps wandering back to a year ago. Back then, Citri, a brilliant and eccentric level 2 certified alchemist, had left the slime with Cray, believing it would be safe in his care. Citri, known as a genius in the Empire's academic world, was famous as the brain behind the Griers and was often called unfettered due to her unconventional ways. Her genius had dragged Cray into tricky and dangerous situations before, including this one. Cray remembers naming the creature Citri Slime and thinks back to their childhood when they would play with slimes. Once, when he wanted to let the slime out for fun, Citri casually warned him that it was dangerous and might even destroy the entire capital. Naturally, Cry thought that was more than just a little risky, but he promised to be extra careful. Back in the present, exhausted from his search, Cry sits on his bed, trying to calm down and think clearly. He recalls opening the capsule containing the slime at the White Wolf's den, only to find it empty, even though he was sure he locked it safely. He briefly wonders if Citri is playing an elaborate prank on him, but knows deep down that he just doesn't want to face this mess anymore. In the White Wolf's den, a group of adventurers is struggling against monsters much stronger than they expected. One woman comments that this mission is tougher than they thought, and her companion agrees, noting that investigating the treasure vault is crucial for the country. He also mentions that Thousand Tricks is involved, making them suspect something big is happening. Meanwhile, back at headquarters, Cry is exhausted and sleep-deprived, stumbling around until he bumps into Eva. She tells him that the association has contacted them about the White Wolf's den. Cry, not particularly interested, tells her to pass the message to Tino, the mission leader. Eva, who wanted to handle it herself, explains that Tino is busy training with Liz. Cray, clearly not in the mood, changes the subject and asks Eva if there's been any movement in the imperial capital. Eva, confused, asks what he means, but Cray brushes it off, saying it's probably nothing and it's good if nothing's happening. Eva, sensing he might be hinting at something, says she'll look into it anyway, but Cray insists it's just his imagination. He then decides to go check on Tino, and Eva tells him she's training on the second basement level. Meanwhile, Cry arrives at the second basement level, where a crowd of hunters gather outside the training room, waiting for their turn. Among them is Shen Angela, a level 6 hunter, who immediately asks Cry to put a stop to Liz's antics. Apparently, Liz has taken over the training grounds and no one else can use them. Cry jokes that monster hunting isn't his thing, but Shen insists, saying Cry is the only one who can deal with her right now since Anim and Lucia are away on a mission. Shen can't understand why Liz returned alone, and Cry casually explains that she got bored after disarming all the traps and reaching the boss room in a level 8 treasure vault. Shen is stunned, muttering in disbelief about the Grier's nerve, but he snaps back to warn Cray that if they don't stop Liz soon, Tino might not make it. Cray, in his usual laid-back manner, doesn't take it too seriously, thinking people don't just drop dead that easily. But when he opens the door, he sees Tino lying flat on the floor, completely unresponsive. Liz stands over her, taunting her to get up and questioning if that's all she's got. Liz decides to end her training session with Tino, but Cry steps in to stop her. Annoyed, Liz asks him what the issue is, saying she's just training Tino, and finds it baffling how weak Tino is, especially since Liz herself was stronger at that age. Cry gently tells Liz that Tino has reached her limit and suggests calling it a day. Surprisingly, Liz agrees until Tino, determined to keep going, grabs Liz's foot, saying she can still fight. Liz, amused, comments on Cray's influence over Tino and resumes the session, smirking. Outside, Cray apologizes to the waiting hunters, explaining that Liz won't stop when she's in this mood. Shen shrugs, remarking how hard Cray seems to push Tino, though Cray tries to deny it. Shen, uninterested, brushes it off, and Cray sits down with him to talk. Shen updates Cray on troubling news. The northern road has been closed due to multiple phantoms, and the knights sent to investigate were killed. Cry recalls hearing about a phantom attacking a traveler in the White Wolf's den and senses something strange about that treasure vault. He wonders if this is why Gar called him. Cry's thoughts drift to Ark, wishing he were around, as things always seem to go smoother with him in charge. Finally, Cray decides to wait out until Ark returns, and Shen, noticing how calm Cray seems, remarks on his relaxed attitude. Despite the chaos, Cray feels unfazed, thinking it's not really his problem. He decides to shift responsibility by casually suggesting that Shem and his team take on a quest for the association. He also tells them to let Gar know he's busy and can't answer the summons. Shen's teammate mutters that he doesn't understand Cray, thinking Cray is just lounging around while everyone else is working hard in treasure vaults. Shen, tired of the complaints, explains that Cray has always been this way and that there's more to him than meets the eye. He advises his teammate to pay closer attention, hinting that Cray is more skilled than he seems, and the newcomer finally gets it. Meanwhile, Gar is puzzled as he realizes that nothing has changed at the White Wolf's den or in the nearby areas, making him wonder what went wrong in the treasure vault. He suspects something man-made is involved and decides he needs to speak with Cry. However, his assistant Canna reminds him that the Obsidian Cross reported Cry is too busy to come. Gar, not buying it, insists he'll go see Cry himself, suspecting Cry knows something since he doesn't usually explore vaults but made an exception this time. Elsewhere in a shady facility, a group of researchers is panicking. The lead scientist is worried that a high-level hunter is now involved, knowing the association might soon discover their operations. Worse, they realize that Thousand Tricks is even more dangerous than they anticipated. The shady group behind recent strange events is known as the Magical Society of Akasic Tower. They admit they're causing the abnormalities, aiming to create treasure vaults at will for endless resources. Despite the chaos, the group's leader stays calm, confident that their missing teammate Sophia, currently on vacation, will help straighten things out when she returns. He orders the team to focus on gathering information until then. Meanwhile, Cry has a nightmare about Citri's slime wreaking havoc on the capital and wakes up in a panic. He finds Liz lying beside him, who casually explains she sneaks into his bed, which is why he felt so hot, since her body is unusually warm. Liz asks if Cray is free to spend the day with her. Surprised, he asks if she isn't supposed to be training, but Liz insists she's taking a break, and Cray, easily distracted from his nightmare, agrees. Later, Gar arrives at Footprint's headquarters looking for Cray. Seeing Cray and Liz about to leave, Gar tries to stop them, but Liz snaps, saying Cray is busy. Gar reminds her he requested a report whenever they clear a vault above level 7. Annoyed, Liz tells him the team relies too much on Cray and insists they should handle their own messes, even kicking Gar out of frustration for interrupting her plans with Cray. As Gar and Liz argue like children, Cray takes the chance to slip away and speak privately with Kana. She reports that there's no issue with the veins and asks if Cray noticed anything strange at the White Wolf's den. Cray admits he didn't, but unintentionally reveals he's more worried about something else. When Kana asks for details, he brushes her off, saying it's not safe to discuss. Secretly, he's thinking about the missing slime, but isn't ready to share that yet. He suggests she ask Ark for help, believing Ark might be the right person for the job. Meanwhile, Liz and Gar keep bickering, with Liz teasing Gar for getting old and weak, which pushes him into fighting her seriously. Cry intervenes, explaining that Gar used to be a level 7 hunter, and asks him to let it go before they destroy the building. Just as Gar is about to lose it, he realizes Liz has already slipped away and is standing beside Cray, which surprises him. He finally calms down, admitting he might need to get back into shape before leaving, only for Eva to walk in later and see the mess they left behind. Later, while Cray and Liz are on their date, Liz, still thinking about the earlier fight, insists that Gar is getting weaker. Cray disagrees, telling her it's unfair to compare others to her, but Liz laughs it off, claiming he wouldn't last 2 seconds in a level 8 treasure vault. While talking with Liz, Cray realizes something. The phantoms they face were insanely strong, making him wonder how they compare to the boss of the White Wolf's den. But Liz casually mentions she doesn't even remember a boss, making Cray realize the boss was so weak it wasn't even worth remembering for her. His thoughts then shift to Citri and the others still inside the level 8 vault, hoping they'll return soon. He's going to need Citri's help before the slime causes serious trouble. Liz notices Cray seems down, and out of nowhere, he asks what she'd do if Sadia was ever destroyed. Liz, ever upbeat, says she'd run away with him, but adds she wants to go to a tropical country to see the ocean, which Cray finds almost annoyingly optimistic. Suddenly, Liz grabs a man who was spying on them. Cray asks her to let him go, and as soon as she does, the man bolts. Liz wonders aloud if Cray intentionally let him escape, impressed by what she thinks is clever acting, though Cray is completely clueless about what she means. Meanwhile, the man hides in his hideout, baffled by how Liz noticed him and confused over why Cray let him go, wondering just how much they know. Elsewhere, a young woman named Sophia Black approaches Noctis Kakir, the leader of the shady researchers. She introduces herself and asks to be his disciple, saying she's very interested in his work. Impressed by her determination, Noctis agrees to take her under his wing. The next day, Cray and Liz head into one of the city's most dangerous areas. Liz still thinks it's a date, but Cray quickly tells her it's just business. He's gotten a tip from Eva that people have been disappearing from the slums. Normally, he wouldn't be interested, but he's worried it might be connected to a missing slime creature. On the plus side, there's a new ice cream shop nearby that he plans to check out afterward, after putting in minimal effort on the mission. He suggests they visit the shop first, which makes Liz happy, though the shop owner is far from thrilled. This is the same man Liz had previously captured, though Cray let him go. The shop owner suspects Cray let him escape back then and fears he's now here to arrest him, knowing the shop is actually a front for one of the Akashic Tower's research facilities. In a panic, the shopkeeper considers shutting down, but a red-haired woman named Sophia, who handles their organization's security, arrives, giving him some hope. Outside, Liz gets impatient and nearly bursts through the door. A cry stops her, hinting the shop might not open today. Disappointed, Liz agrees and they return to their clan, much to the shopkeeper's relief. Back at the office, Cray asks Liz if she knows when the alchemist Citri will be back from the level 8 treasure vault. Liz says it could be a while, and Cray just hopes Citri returns before her slime causes chaos in the city. Suddenly, Eva arrives, informing Cray that the Hunter Association has assembled a team to investigate White Wolf's den, even sending a relic expert to look for new discoveries. Cry senses it's a big deal, but has no intention of getting involved. Meanwhile, the shopkeeper reaches Akashic Tower's headquarters, alarmed that Cray found him so easily despite the disguise. He confesses he can't understand Cray's motives, which unsettles the others. Sophia suggests they confront Cray and his clan directly. Everyone is shocked, but she assures them they can handle it with the security system she designed. The old mage gives her permission, admitting they can't avoid a confrontation forever. The next day, the clan's headquarters is packed with adventurers, and Tino, a clan member, is surprised by the crowd. A nearby person explains they're gathering to investigate White Wolf's den, though Tino thinks this is overkill. The person then mentions that Cry initially wanted to send Ark, a level S hunter, to a level 3 treasure vault, which shocks Tino and shows how serious the situation is. This is why the association and clan have brought so many hunters together. Cry and Eva arrive, and seeing the crowd, Cry wonders if it's some kind of celebration. Eva explains that they're there to explore White Wolf's den and put together a team since he mentioned Ark for the job. Cry is shocked as he only mentioned Ark because he's known for excelling at everything. Realizing the high cost of assembling such a large team, Cray suggests cutting the numbers in half. The hunters panic, worried this will make the mission more dangerous. Eva reassures them, hinting that Cray has something essential to share, though he doesn't. Cray tries to calm the hunters, saying the mission isn't as hard as they think, but they're still uneasy. Cry asks Eva about their rewards, and she tells him Chief Gar has allocated extra funds to keep everyone well paid. With finances settled, Cry tells the hunters to go ahead, and they're glad to know they'll be tackling the vault together. Just then, Liz arrives, mocking the hunters for lacking the courage to grow stronger. She leaves beside Cry, declaring she'll do the mission herself, with only Tino as backup. Cry quickly refuses, not wanting to risk Tino's life or lower the other hunters' morale. He announces that everyone will participate, and Eva puts him in charge. Cry is surprised but agrees, while Sven, who is already at White Wolf's den, will leave until Cry joins later. Before the hunters leave, Cry warns one of them to watch out for slime monsters in the vault. Back at the office, Liz nags Cry for a mission, eager to show off her combat skills. Cry, annoyed by her persistence, wonders how much longer he has to deal with her until the hunters wrap up the White Wolf's den mission so he can show it at the end. Suddenly, the alchemist Citri arrives, informing Cry about a powerful organization threatening the world. Cry immediately sends Liz and Tino out of the office, and Citri begins explaining the Akashic Tower's plans. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Gar, the chief, suits up in his battle armor, eager to join the treasure vault mission. His assistant tries to stop him, worried he might injure himself. Just then, Citri arrives, informing Gar about important details regarding their true enemies. Back in Cray's office, he thinks about how Citri was the only friend in their group who didn't have incredible powers. Knowing she wasn't suited for fighting on the front lines, she looked for another way to help, eventually becoming a skilled alchemist thanks to Cray's suggestion. Citri now explains to Cray that a special slime she created can adapt quickly and evolve, but it's unstable and technically a failed experiment. However, she assures him it won't attack her or Cray. Cray, though a bit relieved, is still worried since the slime could threaten the city. Citri guesses it escaped its capsule and somehow ended up in the drainage system. While Cray is reassured by her confidence, Citri warns him about another, potentially bigger threat. Meanwhile, in the White Wolf's den, Sven learns that Cray won't be joining them, and he's also kept Liz from coming. Secretly, Sven is glad. Liz's unpredictability often makes things more complicated. He gathers the treasure hunters and jokingly asks if they're ready to face a slime, and they all laugh, saying slimes are weak. Sten wishes Cray had given them more useful details. A rough-looking hunter heads into the vault, ignoring strategy and claiming it's only for the weak. The others laugh, and Sven sarcastically suggests he can be the first to face any monsters, so they can learn from his mistakes. Just then, a red-haired woman, an alchemist from Cray's clan who resembles Sophia, the defense head of the Akashic Tower, introduces herself. She says she worked with Citri on slime research and shows a potion she claims can kill any slime. Sten encourages the hunters to aim for glory, but by the end of the day, they only encounter slightly stronger wolf-like creatures. Sten wonders if Cry may have been wrong, but hopes that's the case. Suddenly, the rough-looking hunter returns, annoyed that everyone's so afraid of slimes. As he wanders into the forest, he hears something unusual and finds two men trying to inject a chained wolf with a mysterious serum to make it stronger. Realizing it's a setup, he attacks the men, knocking one out and fighting the other, who shoots fireballs at him. One man injects the wolf with a serum that causes it to transform, absorbing mana and becoming more powerful. As the creature mutates, it drains mana from the two men, and the hunter sounds an alarm. Sten and the others gather, preparing for a fight. Soon, the severely injured hunter staggers out, warning them that Cray was right about the threat, a slime-like wolf creature. which emerged from the serum injection, appears. Sten tries shooting arrows at its legs while magicians use fire and ice spells, but nothing works. A nearby alchemist who collaborated with Citri hands Sven a vial that she claims will make the creature self-destruct if it contacts it. Sten plants the vial and dodges aside as the slime wolf steps on it. The explosion seems promising, but the creature absorbs the blast and survives. An ally explains that Cray described it as a slime-like creature, not an actual slime, explaining its resilience. Just then, Citri arrives to help. She has convinced Cray to let her join the team, and she quickly observes the creature's structure, noting that it hunts those with high mana. Seeing it as a failed experiment, she decides to put it down. She tosses a vial filled with anti-mana metal at the slime wolf, and Sven shoots it midair, causing it to hit the creature. The anti-mana substance finally weakens it, rendering it vulnerable. At that moment, Gark arrives in full battle gear, surprising Sven. Citri explains she asked him for a ride since, unlike her sister Liz, she couldn't sprint all the way there. As everyone gets ready for the next fight, Citri shares her insights into recent events, revealing that the Akashic Tower and its leader, Master Magus, might be behind the chaos. The tower, it turns out, uses this vault as a base filled with dangerous equipment. Citri, who knows the tower's purpose, urges the group to stop their illegal experiments. Though she's no Cray, she's determined to give her all. Sten's assistant notes her bravery, and Sten warns him not to underestimate her. Despite her lack of strength, Citri has a knack for turning situations to her advantage, making her just as capable as any other fighter. Meanwhile, Liz clings to Cray, begging to join Citri, but Cray firmly tells her no despite her protests. That marks the end of today's Anime Recap. If you enjoy the video and want more of it, please support the channel by leaving a like and subscribe. Let's help us reach a current goal of 10K subscribers.